Okay, so for this video, I'm going to teach you guys how to play Tiny Epic Dinosaurs. So, this is definitely a very tiny game. Everything is really, really tiny, for sure. Especially the meeples. Look how small that is. And so it may be hard for some of you to see everything in this game when I show you guys how to play it. So we'll try to bring it up to the camera as best we can since everything is so small in this game. But even though it's a tiny epic game, it's also very epic. There's a lot going on with this game. It's a very small game, very small box, but there's a lot going on in this game. So let's get started. So what's the objective of this game? Well, the objective of this game is to obviously claim victory points, to have the most victory points at the end of the game. And the best way to do this is by completing public contracts. Okay, so how do you complete a public contract? Well, first of all, there's a variety of different public contracts, and there'll be about, if you're playing a two-player game, there'll be 3 of these sitting on this mat here, face up, so you can see which ones you can try to go for to complete. But for instance, if I wanted to complete this contract here, I would have to have, let's say this was my ranch right here, I'd have to have 2 stegosauruses and 1 brachiosaurus in my ranch in order to complete this contract. That's not all, though. I'd also have to be able to take an action that allows me to complete a public contract. Then I'd have to discard the dinosaurs indicated here to complete it. And then I would get to take this card, and at the end of the game, I'd have an extra 10 victory points. But that's not all you can do when you take the action complete a contract. Another thing you'll want to try to do is you'll want to try to complete a private contract as well. Because you see, the only time you can complete a private contract, besides the fact that you still have to do the same thing as a public contract by discarding the indicated dinosaurs from your ranch, you also have to first complete the public contract. So you'll take an action, and there's lots of actions in this game, and we'll go over them, and we'll go over the action for these later. But you're going to have to take an action, the action to complete a public action, and then, and only then, can you complete a private action. If you take public action and you do not complete a public contract, so if you take the action to do this and you do not complete the public contract, then that means you cannot complete a private contract even if you had the dinosaurs in order to complete it. So you have to basically do 2 of them at the same time. And that's the only way you're going to be able to fulfill these private contracts. And these private contracts do give you more victory points. So it's something you're going to want to do for sure. Now in the game, you're going to end up starting with 2 of these. Each player is going to get 2 of these. They're going to get to look at them, and they're going to keep 1. The other one is going to go back into the private contract pile. And if you were playing a 4-player game, well, all of these would get looked at, and 4 would be returned. Okay? Then, after that, there's something else to note. There is a total of 6 rounds in this game. 6 rounds. So when you make it to the 4th round, 2 things will happen when you reach the 4th round, okay? One thing is you will get access to a new private contract. So that means you'll get another private contract, and you'll have 2 to complete. And that's the max you'll ever have. You will never have more than 2 private contracts in the course of the game. So that's all you'll get. So that means you'll get 2 chances to complete them. You'll get all these chances to complete them, but you'll only have 2 that you'll actually end up trying to complete. Another thing that's going to happen once you reach the 4th round is you'll get an additional rancher. What ranchers do is you need these ranchers in order to complete your actions. Without any ranchers, you can't complete actions. And so in the course of the game, you'll start with 3 little ranchers and 1 big one. What's the difference between the big one and the small one? You're probably asking now. Well, the small ones are only worth 1. They're just basically a rancher all on their own. But the big rancher counts as 2 ranchers. Now, why is that evident? Well, when you take an action, so let's scoot this up so you guys can see the actions. If you take an action, and these are all the actions here, all 4 of these cards here, A, B, C, and D, all of these are the actions. So if you take an action, you're going to put your meeple on the action that you want to take, okay? When you put it there, no other ranchers of your color can go there because you can only have 1 of your color there. Or maybe more, depending on how things work. Let's say, for instance, the other player that I have here, he put his rancher here, his big one. In a sense, he's trying to block me from getting the Stegosaurus. If I wanted to get that Stegosaurus from that exact same action, I would have to place I'd have to place 3 of these ranchers in order to place it there too, because he's trying to block me. So that's obviously a lot of ranchers, and it may not be worth putting 3 of your ranchers on there because you only have 4 ranchers to start with in the game, and that means you'd only get 2 actions for the entire game, for the entire round, I mean. And so you go from having 4 actions in a round to 2. Would not be very smart to try to go there too. But there are workarounds. There are other ways of getting Stegosauruses. You can go here instead, but you have to pay a supply resource to do so. Now we'll go over these actions again and how they work later. But that's the point. That's the point of having these bigger ranchers. They're to try to block your opponents from obviously going to certain locations. Now, if a player was to use just a regular rancher at a certain location, you would still have to have at least 2 of your ranchers in your color to go to that same location if you wanted to go there. So that would mean you'd only have 3 actions now instead of 4. That might be worth it on occasion when you have no choice but to take that action. Otherwise, it could cause some serious consequences for you. That could be possible. In this game, there are some actions that are like you have to take them, otherwise it's going to cause serious problems for you, and you don't want that, obviously. So yes, that's what's going to happen. Your opponents are going to try to block you. You're going to try to block your opponents. It's very interactive in that sense that you're going to be trying to block each other taking actions. So that's basically the point of the game, is to try to get victory points, to try to get these contracts completed. Now, there are a total of 7 phases in this game. We're going to talk about each one separately as we go along and how they all work and all that. But there are 6 rounds. And then, of course, the 4th round is when you get your extra rancher and another private contract, okay? And, anyways, so let's talk about the first phase. Well, actually, hold on. Let's finish the setup. This is basically the setup of the game, okay? You're going to have everything out set up here. And let's give you guys a look on the right side. You have all of these dinosaurs here separated nicely, right? These purple ones, however, these are all unique. There's no 2 dinosaurs alike here. There's 1 dinosaur they're each different. These dinosaurs here, the only way you can get these is with the research deck. Okay, if you take an action that allows you to take a research card, and the setup is you start with 3 of these research cards face up to start the round with. And you can see we already have 2 dinosaurs accessible. We have the Draco Rex here. So, for instance, if you were to take the action that allows you to take one of these research cards, then you would get the corresponding dinosaur in that color. You'd have to look for that exact dinosaur in that color, of course, because they're all different, so it might take you a minute or 2 to locate the exact dinosaur you need. But then you'd get to place that dinosaur directly into your ranch. Your ranch, you can't directly put dinosaurs directly into your ranch. But when you do a purple dinosaur, you'll get to put it directly into your ranch. Now, when you start the game off, you're only going to have one enclosure. But don't fret, because the purple dinosaurs will not... None of the dinosaurs you put into your ranch immediately during the first few phases of the game will escape anyways. You see, there's 7 phases in this game, and the only time you have to worry about dinosaurs escaping is during the 4th phase, the 5th phase, and the 6th phase. That means phases 1 through 3 and phase 7, you don't have to worry about dinosaurs escaping. But that's not all. The purple dinosaurs won't escape until they start to starve to death. So you can place a Draco Rex, for instance, in an area where that's not an enclosure and don't have to worry about it escaping for a while, because as long as you feed it well, it probably won't escape. And that's basically the cool thing of getting those purple dinosaurs into your ranch, is to do that. But of course, some contracts require those purple dinosaurs as well. Now, they don't require any particular purple dinosaur, but they do require some of those public contracts, and private contracts will require these purple dinosaurs in order to complete them. Okay, in order to complete the contracts. So, that is what those do. And then, of course, there's other really cool cards you can get. Now, each one of these cards, even if it's a dinosaur, will give you some benefits, will give you some abilities in the course of the game. Some abilities will even make it possible to do things that would normally be a problem for you. Because if a dinosaur escapes, what's going to happen? Well, the dinosaur is going to escape, you're going to lose it, right? What if it's a carnivore? It might escape, and it might take a dinosaur with it. It also, if a dinosaur escapes, you also might lose an enclosure that might break through it, right? And you'll have to build a new fence. And so there's penalties. If a dinosaur escapes, there will be penalties. But some of these cards might actually delete the benefit, the penalties that you would normally get from escaping dinosaurs. They also might prevent dinosaurs from escaping. You just don't know. And so there's a lot of useful cards in here that you'll definitely want to get your hands on. And so maybe trying to get one of these in a round is a good strategy. Because it's really hard to get 2 in a round, but it could be possible to get at least 1 in a round if your opponent, of course, doesn't have the same idea. Because once again, there's only 2 action slots here, and if a rancher goes here, then that means you'd have to use more ranchers, obviously, to go there too, to get these research cards. So it's more of a first come, first serve kind of basis, unless you want to waste your meeples by placing more there in order to take this action. That may not necessarily be a necessity as other actions, as you'll see. So that's one of the things you can do, is you'll have these out. Another thing that you'll need to do for the setup is, depending on how many players are playing, I'm playing a 2-player game, so there'll be 3 of these public contracts available for everyone to see, to try to go for, to try to complete. And a new public contract will not be immediately placed out. So if somebody completes one of these public contracts, another one will not take its place immediately. That only happens in phase 7. So another one will not take those places until phase 7. And that's only if those have been completed. Any of those have been completed. So let's start talking about each of the phases in the next video.